Dear Dhamma friends, we have come to the next item, that is a Dhamma sermon. So may you give your consent by saying Sadhu Sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Imasmin sati idang hoti, imasuppada idang uppajjati ti. Dear Dhamma friends, so in this Kalalgoda English medium retreat, we have taken a particular sutta as the topic. So probably you can remember that we have taken one particular sutta called Maha Tanhasankhaya Sutta, which comes in Majjhima Nikaya. So this sutta is delivered by the Buddha, and in a way it is a fairly deep sutta which covers a fair amount of Buddha's teaching. Because if you consider certain suttas, they talk about very little things or some little facts, few facts. But on the other hand, this particular sutta covers a range of information. So this sutta is also one of the profound suttas where Buddha explains about the dependent arising, or what is called Paticca Samuppada. And the reason for delivering this long sutta is in a way kind of a wrong view which has occurred in one of the monk. So during the Buddha's time, one of the monk called Venerable Sati was having a kind of a pernicious view where he thinks that there is something called consciousness or vijnana, which is going from one life to the other life, this life to the other life, next life. So likewise, there is some kind of ongoing consciousness, and it is transmigrating from life to life. So in a way, we can understand that why Venerable Sati might have such kind of a view, because understanding the operation or the know-how of the vijnana, the consciousness is fairly difficult. So mostly even during the Buddha's time, many other ascetics, like other teachers, also have had this kind of a view. Because they can actually understood this body cannot continue, because it's after several years, after 60-70 years, it may die and it will perish. But on the other hand, there should be something which is ongoing. So that is what even some of us even might think today. So this body may perish after death, but there may be something going on to the next life, from next life to the other life. So there's this kind of a view we also might have. So Venerable Sati also has such kind of a view that he was thinking that this consciousness is eternal, which is going from one life to the other life. So he's having this view for a fairly long time, and the news went to the other monks as well. So the other monks, maybe friends of Venerable Sati, approached him and tried to correct him. But Venerable Sati was somewhat stubborn and he couldn't agree with the other monks. So he continued to have this wrong view. Then what happened was, the other monks went and informed Buddha, telling that Venerable Sati is having this kind of a view. Then what Buddha did was, he sent one of the monks asking Venerable Sati to come and meet Buddha. Then Venerable Sati came and meet the Buddha, and at that time many number of other monks also in the same audience. So many monks are now listening, and Venerable Sati is the sort of person now Buddha is questioning. So the Buddha is asking, is it true that you are having this kind of a view, that the consciousness is eternal? Consciousness is going from one life to the other life? Then Venerable Sati says, yes. Then Buddha asks, where did I inform such thing? Where did I preach like that? And then Sati was kind of helpless, kind of speechless, and he couldn't answer exactly where Buddha has mentioned such thing. Then Buddha, in a way, telling that Venerable Sati is wrong and he is having a wrong view, and not only that, he is asking from other monks also various questions. Because you can understand, during the good old days, we didn't have any kind of a proper way to store the teaching. We didn't, at that time there is no proper written papers or kind of books available, and there is no, of course, the electronic media as today. So only way of communicating the message, what Buddha's teaching, is through listening. So monks are listening what Buddha is preaching and they are remembering. And then suppose there may be another arahant or someone again preaching, then other monks also listening and remembering. Maybe some lay people also come to listen Dhamma, they also remembering. So this oral tradition was the only way of communication. So in case if someone has some wrong view, in case if someone starts to produce some kind of a wrong belief, insert some wrong understanding, then the whole teaching get kind of a defected or infected with various kind of wrong ideas. Therefore, Buddha was very careful, and categorically, therefore, Buddha is asking so many questions from other monks as well. So he already finished asking questions from the Venerable Sati, because Venerable Sati already speechless about Buddha's questions. Now Buddha is asking from other monks. So did I speak or did I preach that the consciousness is eternal? Then the other monks are telling, no, that you have mentioned consciousness is dependently arisen. It is not something itself originated, but due to certain other causes, consciousness have comes into being. So there's a beautiful Pali phrase where the monks are telling, Aneka pariyayenehi bante paticca samuppannang viññānaṁ uttam bhagavata. There are in different ways, you, Lord Buddha, that you have mentioned that the consciousness is dependently arisen. So these other monks are answering the Buddha. When Buddha is asking whether did I mention that the consciousness is eternal, they say no. You have mentioned that the consciousness is dependently arisen. So how? Chakkuncha paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku viññānam. So for example, when eye meets with the form, then the eye consciousness arises. So you can understand, for eye consciousness to arise, there are two causes, at least two causes. That is, one has to have a healthy eye directed towards a particular object, and should be enough light, of course, and then the eye consciousness would arise. Similarly, ear and the sound will generate ear consciousness. Nose and the smells will generate the nose consciousness. Tongue and the taste would generate the tongue consciousness. Body and the tactile sensations would generate the body consciousness. And mind objects will generate the mind consciousness. So these are the 6 categories of consciousness that Buddha says dependently arisen. None of them can arise without these causes. So we can see clearly in the Buddha's teaching, even today, that there are many suttas explaining this principle. That is, in order for consciousness to arise, there should be at least these 2 causes. They too might not be enough, but at least these 2 they should be there. They are ultimately, they are necessary, essential. Without these 2, not at all possible. So if there is no eye, kind of a healthy, kind of a directed eye, then there is not possibility of arisen of the eye consciousness. Similarly, you can understand for the other senses as well. So likewise, Buddha is denying Venerable Sati's wrong view, telling that I have many times mentioned that the consciousness is dependently arisen. So if something is dependently arisen, if those causes are not there, is it possible for the result to arise? If the causes are not there, then the result cannot arise. Because the result is a kind of a made one. Result is a constructed one. Result is a conditioned phenomena. And for this result to appear, there should be these two causes. If these two causes are not there, the result cannot arise. So we can see, so then if in case these results are absent, then in case these causes are absent, then the result cannot exist. So it is clearly dependently arisen. So the consciousness is dependently arisen. So Buddha does not stop there telling that the consciousness is dependently arisen. So Sati is wrong, and so he does not stop there. He further asks various other questions, and he asks, did you see that things have come to be? So then the other monks answer, yes, we have seen. So this is in a way kind of a tricky question. When Buddha is asking, did you see that things have come to be? We can think various things. We can think in a different way. We can answer like, yeah, we have seen that the Jetavana exists, other monks exist, there are many rich merchants exist, there are different kings exist, there are clouds exist. Like that, there are many answers we can think of. But Buddha does not ask this kind of a typical conventional question. But rather he is asking something deeper. He is asking, did you really see? Did you really experience that things exist? Then the other monks say yes. So this is another area where when we feel that things exist, then we can even go to a other side of view, even to a wrong view. Say for example, when we see that if a particular or someone who does not have much understanding about the Buddha's teaching, when he sees something, then he may simply recognize it. Say for example, when you see this fan, you simply recognize it. And after recognizing it, after perceiving it, you can think of various things. Okay, it's a stand fan. It's made up of this particular material. It is this expensive. And now it belongs to Kalalgoda Retreat Center. It was donated by so and so. So you can go thinking, so long story, just because of this sight. Similarly, you can think of various other things which you have heard, which you have sensed, and even when some thought coming or thought appearing in your mind. Have you noticed that you all are proliferating based on such input? Now, we don't like to stop just merely by seeing. If you see various different objects, you can't stop your mind. We have the trend of keep on thinking, keep on proliferating based on that. So there's some theoretical terms used there. Bhute bhutato sanjanati, bhute bhutato sanyatva, bhute manyati. So this term manyati is for the reference of conceiving, proliferating. So we don't just stop at the perception level. We keep on thinking based on that perception, based on that recognition. Then bhute sumanyati. So we are generating some kind of wave that we are in that what we have seen. Say for example, if you are seeing a particular photograph which have taken say several months ago, and you are looking immediately, where am I? Where am I in this picture? Suppose it's a group photo. So you are looking at your image there. So you are putting yourself inside that picture. So you can see, so what you have seen is something. And now based on what you have seen, you are putting yourself inside, in that. So that is one way of thinking. Then, bhutato manyati. So you may be thinking apart from that. So I was not there. I couldn't attend at that occasion. So I was not in that group photo. Suppose that also can happen. So based on, if it is not there, you are thinking apart of it, apart from that. Similarly, bhute meti manyati. So you can talk in possession of that. So it belongs to me, or it belongs to my son, it belongs to my daughter. So likewise, what you have seen is taken into possession. So based on that possessiveness, you start thinking. Bhute abhinandati. So, and you delight in this, what you have seen. So you can see how our mind is so tricky, so crafty, and thinking in different ways. So we can't stop at just mere seeing. Similarly, if you have heard something, so we start to think about what we have heard. Maybe we start thinking based on, we are putting ourselves inside what we have heard. Or maybe apart from what we have heard. Or maybe we are talking, belonging that what we have heard, in possession of what we have heard. And again we may delight in what we have heard. So these are not difficult to understand, because if you have, suppose you have listened to a particular poem as a child and somehow it was recorded and now you are replaying it. Now you can immediately recognize, oh, it was me at that time. Say 30 years ago, that was me. So you are possessing it, or you are putting yourself inside what is being played, what is being heard. So these are things that we generate kind of a long stories, long proliferations in our mind. Similarly, what we have tasted, similarly what we have sensed through the nose or even through the body. And even if you are simply taking some kind of a sign in your mind, can you just ignore that sign? Suppose just a little sign coming about your mother, about your father, about your child. Can you stop there? Or would you start to think about that sign, adding more and more things, fabricating various things? So we are used to fabrication. We are used to proliferation. So this is something that Buddha further questioning and asking from the monks, did you have seen that the things have come to be? And after explaining these things, then Buddha goes to another deeper subjects, telling about the 4 nutriments. Chattaro me bhikkhave ahara bhutanang va santanang tithiya sambhavesinang va anuggahaya katame chattaro kabbalinkaro aharo olariko va sukumo va passo dutiyo mano sancetana tatiya viññānaṁ catutthaṁ. Now he is taking another deep subjects to this sutta, and he is telling the monks, there are 4 types of nutriments. What are they? First, the kabbalinkara ahara, the gross food, material food, that we all can understand, the gross material food, which is also necessary, and either they may be gross or either they may be subtle. And then the passo dutiyo, the contact, as the second. Mano sancetana tatiya, mental volition, as the third. Viññānaṁ catutthaṁ, consciousness, as the fourth. So we have discussed these 4 nutriments on different other occasions in this Kalalgoda retreat. So if I just recall some facts of them, so Buddha says that these 4 nutriments are necessary for the sustenance of our bodies. Not only the bodies, our kind of ongoing living. For the sustenance, these 4 nutriments are necessary. And not only even for the living beings, even for the beings who are in the process of birth, for them also these nutriments are necessary. So kind of a deeper subjects Buddha is taking our attention, because it is easy to understand this gross food, what we have ate. So even today we ate variety of food, maybe even drinks, maybe juice, lot of things we have ate. So in a way, why Buddha is talking about these 4 nutriments? Because we are keep on even thinking about these nutriments, and our mind get attached to these nutriments, and we even get deluded by these nutriments. If not, we are mindful. Say for example, we are going to a kind of a party or maybe to a wedding, and we got variety of delicious food. So if we lost our mindfulness, if we lost our moderation, then we will end up with overeating. But on the other hand, if someone is fairly restrained, someone is mindful about eating, then they may have the proper amount, moderate amount. Similarly, if we are not mindful about what we are eating, then there's a possibility that we are generating so much of defilements out of eating. We may be eating different foods. Out of that, we are generating a lot of defilements because we don't know what's the purpose of eating. It may generate a lot of greed in ourselves. We may be strengthening certain tendencies or habits in our mind if we are not mindful of what we are eating. So Buddha recommends certain contemplations, for example, particularly for this gross food, what we eat. He asks us to see the purpose. Why we eat? Because this body needs some amount of food. It needs some amount of nutrition. So therefore Buddha says, don't go to the extreme telling that food is not necessary. That is another extreme. And on the other hand, don't go to the overeating. That's the other extreme. Indulgence, don't go to that. But rather select what is necessary. What is the necessary amount? And be moderate in eating. And even while eating, just be aware that you are eating for a purpose. That is for the sustenance of this body. And for the well-being of this body. And again, in order to support your practice. And on the other hand, he is telling us, further, if you like, even you can use this eating to generate some amount of wisdom in your mind. Because this food does not know that it is being eaten by some person, someone. And this body also does not know that now certain types of different variety of food is going inside. So this body and this food both are actually born of elements, generated of elements, produced of elements. It's a kind of a mixing up of elements to elements. We are putting some elements from outside, and those elements get mixed up with the internal elements. So it's a kind of exchange in between elements. So likewise we can think. And on the other hand, Buddha says that we can see the loathsomeness in this food. If we didn't eat, they got rotten, they got stale. And if we eat, even while eat, they become fairly loathsome, repulsive. And after we ate, it become utterly repulsive. So you can see how Buddha is trying to avoid generation of lot of delusion out of food. Then he is going to talk about other types of food, that is the contact. Because contact causes fair amount of other areas in our mind. Buddha says, Putto bhikkhave vedeti, putto sanjanati, putto cheteti. After being in contact, what starts to feel? After contact, what starts to perceive? One starts to perceive. After contact, one starts to think, to intend. So you can see, so this contact is kind of a primary need in order for us to feel something. In order for us to perceive something, this contact is a prerequisite. Again, if we are to think, if we are to intend will something, then this contact is a prerequisite. Say for example, if you open your eyes and look at something, if it is beautiful, you start to think about it. And you may even intentionally go and grab it. Now the intention has arisen because of the contact. And again, after seeing that, you may feel happy if it is a beautiful, say, flower or beautiful sight. So you can see that the feeling has arisen based on the contact. And again, your perception is generated. Now you have recognized it is a beautiful flower, because there's a sight, and this sight being mapped with the already available data in your, say, in your perceptions, in your memory bank, and then you are perceiving, okay, this is a flower, this is a particular flower. So you can see the perception is also generated after contact. So all these three large areas or large arenas being generated because of the contact. So the feeling aggregate, perception aggregate, and even the formations aggregate are arising due to this contact. And if you have some healthy eyes, if you open your eyes, you start to see. Similarly, if you have healthy ears, you start to hear. If you have, all of us have nose, so in case if we come across kind of a smell, then we start to sense it. Similarly, if we start to put some food or whatever thing on our tongue, we start to feel, we start to taste. Similarly, if we use some kind of tactile sensation, get in touch in our body, we start to feel. Maybe happy, maybe unhappy. Again, as human beings, we keep on thinking. So you can see these 6 senses are always in action. These are like factories. Probably you can even close your eyes, and at least for some time you can close that factory. So Buddha named them as ayatana. Even in today's terms, now we translate it as a department. So department is something that a fair amount of work is going on. Similarly, in our eye faculty, eye sense base, there are a lot of work going on. Similarly, in our ear faculty, there are a lot of work going on. Actually, this work sometimes is not useful to ourselves, not beneficial to ourselves. Say, for example, someone is blaming you, and you start to hear, and you got angry, and you start to blame him back, and you may even take sticks to harm him, and we may even get into quarrel and kill each other even. So because of this hearing, so just a sound have impinged on the eardrum. Can you stop in that level? Thinking that the sound has impinged on your eardrum? So we can't stop there. So we start to think on what we have heard. So we are very like to think on what we have seen, on what we have heard, on what we have sensed, what we have tasted, what we have gotten into touch, and what we have even think. We are like thinking machines. If those 5 faculties, the 5 main faculties are stopped, we simply take a chair and just relax and think. So that is what we used to do. As relaxing, we feel that we have to think. We keep on thinking, going on and on. So Buddha advised, is it possible for us to stop at what we have seen? Stop at what we have hearing. Ditte ditta mattam bhavisati. Stop at what you have seen. Sute sutta mattam bhavisati. Stop at what we have heard. Seeing is just seen. Hearing is just hearing. Can we really stop there? So that is where the meditation is taking us. So if even if we are meditating for several hours per day, during the rest of the time, if we allow our mind to go on and on thinking, on and on proliferating, then the effect of that meditation is slowly fading away. Because our thinking is a process which harms or which consumes a lot of mental energy. And not only that, it generates a lot of defilements in ourselves, and again it strengthens certain unhealthy habits in ourselves. So the third nutriment what Buddha is talking is the mental volition. So we are in a way under the influence of volition, because this volition sometimes we think is under our control. But after proper analysis or after some close investigation, one can understand intention is conditioned by previous habits. Say for example, suppose you are going to a kind of a party and there are variety of foods available, and you are choosing particular food. Are you really choosing a healthy food? Or are you really choosing something dictated by the intention? So you can check about your mind. So you next time once you go to a wedding, check whether you are selecting some healthy food, or are you going for something which is maybe delicious as you may be thinking, maybe really tasty as you may be thinking, or maybe conditioned by a certain advertisement which you have seen in television maybe, or maybe in the road there are many advertisements. So is your intention conditioned by those advertisements? Can you think about that point? How much our thinking, how much our intention being conditioned by these advertisements? Now we are being bombarded by various things. So if you open your eyes, so while you are going, unintentionally you are being programmed. So be careful. So if you we are like innocent beings, we just keep our eyes open and we are simply traveling, for example. But there are so many advertisements putting various germs to your mind. And ultimately, and you are going to supermarket, that's also being conditioned to the mind. So you are going to a particular supermarket, not all the other things. So you are selecting particular brand, particular chain, and you are going to that supermarket. And you are going to that particular brand, and you are selecting that. So we think, I selected that. But this my selection being conditioned by those advertisements. So we are like puppets in a way. So we are being driven by these things. So Buddha says this intention is conditioned. And if we are to understand how this intention works, how internally this mental volition works, we have to really calm down our mind. We have to step back and look at how mind operates. We have to see the subtle differences in our thinking patterns. Then only we can have some proper understanding about our thinking patterns. Otherwise, we are being governed by these thinking patterns. And these are the kind of pitfalls in our thinking, in our mental volition. So the last nutriment Buddha talks about is the consciousness. Vijnana ahara. That is in a way so subtle. So last month I tried my best to explain that. And that is so subtle. And in order for you to understand that, you need fair amount of practice. Without practice, just having theoretical knowledge might even confuse you. What is this consciousness and how one can understanding it. So all these things becomes merely facts. But through some proper vipassana knowledge, some vipassana practice, one would be in a position to understand how this consciousness manifesting, how this consciousness deceiving ourselves, acting like a magician, showing us various magics. When something is not there, it is showing us it is there. When something is there, it may be showing us it is not there. So therefore Buddha says consciousness is like a magician, like a magic show. You know that there are some skilled magicians, they can show various tricks, they can show various magics. So we go to those magic shows paying many thousands of rupees, and then we look at that alarmed, frightened and astonished. But it is just a mere magic, just a empty magic show. So Buddha says this consciousness is also like that. It is merely empty. But we can't understand that emptiness just by reading books, just by listening to Dhamma. You need fair amount of practice just to realize it, just to even taste it, just to even sense it. And after explaining about these four nutriments, and then Buddha is taking us further deeper. In this sutta, actually Buddha does not stop at the surface level. He is going deeper step by step. Now he is asking a beautiful question from the monks, and he is asking, monks, what is the condition for these four nutriments? Now you might, if you have listened to those previous Dhamma sermons, if you have some fair understanding about these four nutriments, you can see we are going for various different gross food, maybe due to greed. Maybe we start to see various sights, we start to listen various music, start to even taste different delicious food, maybe different tastes, and we are going for various tactile sensations, different sensations. Is it due to craving? And even when we are selecting something, we may be selecting, it may be conditioned. And is it due to craving? Similarly, suppose there is a possibility of keeping the mind utterly free, completely unattached, not lean to anything, completely empty. Why then consciousness or the mind going and landing on a particular object, going and grasping a particular object? Is it due to craving? So that's something we can think of. So Buddha says it is due to craving. It is due to craving that these four nutriments arise. So craving is the cause. Tanha. And then Buddha does not stop there. So craving as their origin, as their source, these four nutriments arise, and this craving itself is something generated, something conditioned. And what is the cause for craving? Then Buddha says feeling is the source for craving. Based on feeling, craving starts to arise. Feeling as the source, craving arises. And that is the craving being produced because of the feeling. Is it easy to understand or difficult to understand. Suppose, for example, when you put some delicious food in your mouth, you start to get delighted. And definitely you are going for another time. You may be going to the same hotel the next time. Because you are being conditioned by this feeling. And there are certain advertisements also which are telling us that you can't beat the feeling. Probably you have seen it. You can't beat the feeling. So this feeling actually conditions the craving. If whatever the object producing some kind of a pleasurable feeling in yourself, then definitely you are going for that. Definitely you crave for that. So this feeling has a conditioning factor for craving. Then Buddha is asking, what is the cause for feeling? Then he says, the cause for feeling is contact. Contact is the source. Contact is the origin for feeling to arise. So if you simply close your eyes, so you can't see anything because your eyes are closed. Once you open your eyes, immediately some sights get impinged in your eyes, on your eyes. So you can understand it's that impingement, this coming into contact. So this contact is the cause for the feeling to arise. Then he asks, what is the cause for contact? He says, for the cause for the contact is the six sense bases. The source is the six sense bases. When you have eye, if it is healthy, and you also open your eyes, it causes eye contact to arise. Similarly, even though we can close our eyes, we can't properly close our ears. Even though we are trying with various mechanics. So, when our ears are open, and again attention is drawn to a particular sound, then ear contact going to arise. So ear is necessary there. Similarly, nose faculty or nose base is necessary. Similarly, tongue base is necessary for tongue contact to arise. And similarly, the body is necessary for body contact to arise. And again, the mind is necessary for mind contact to arise. So you can see Buddha is taking us then to these six sense bases. They are the source, they are the origin for this contact to arise. And then he asks, what is the cause? What is the origin for these six sense bases? And he says it's the name and form. So this little difficult subject to easily explain. So we need fair amount of time to explain about the name and form, nama rupa. So for the time being, so let's have faith on Buddha and let's take it for granted. So name and form is the reason, name and form is the cause, it is the source for six sense base to arise. Then it's going on, then consciousness is the cause for name and form to arise. Then the mental formations are the cause for the consciousness to arise. And ultimately, ignorance is the cause for mental formations to arise. So Buddha is taking us in a forward or rather backward way, rather in a descending order, taking us back to ignorance. Probably we might be used to recall this Paticcasamuppada, dependent arising, starting from ignorance. Avijja paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijnanam, vijnana paccaya namarupam, namarupa paccaya salayatanam, salayatana paccaya passo, Passa paccaya vedana, vedana paccaya tanha, tanha paccaya upadanam. That's what we used to say. But now here, Buddha says tanha paccaya chattaro ahara. So even these 4 nutriments are generated based on the craving. You can see that Buddha has explained this dependent arising in different ways. Why is that? For example, sometimes he is telling jati bhikkhave pacca jara maranam. So when consider the death and decay, the birth is the condition. And he says this is the paticcasamuppada. And this is the dependent arising. So you can understand sometimes Buddha did not explain all these 12 links in order to explain paticcasamuppada. Rather, he has taken even 2 links to explain paticcasamuppada. What is this reason? So, paticcasamuppada is not these 12 links. These 12 links are the examples for paticcasamuppada. They are the conditioned phenomena. They are the generated phenomena which is subject to this particular rule. What is the rule? That is the paticcasamuppada. That is the idapaccayata. So that is the principle, and that is what I have taken as the topic of the Dhamma sermon. Imasmin sati idang hoti. Imassuppada idang uppajjati. Imasmin asati idang na hoti. Imassa nirodha idang nirujjati. So this is the principle. This is the law. So all these different factors can be included to this particular law. So what is this law? Imasmin sati idang hoti. When this exists, that comes to be. Imasmin sati idang hoti. Imassuppada idang uppajjati. With the arising of this, that arises. In a way, it is a very subtle principle, very delicate principle that Buddha is telling as a paticcasamuppada. If we think of all these 12 links, it appears like fairly complicated. But as we all have to understand, it is this simplicity taking us to the profundity. So the paticcasamuppada principle, the principle of the dependent arising, is a very delicate principle. It's a very subtle principle. Imasmin sati idang hoti, imassuppada idang uppajjati. So that is the arising side. When this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. So if we are to see this kind of a very subtle principle, how much fine-tuned our mind has to be. How much properly aligned our mind for us to see this principle. So on the other hand, we have a lot of formula in today's maths, in chemical science or chemistry, or even physics, applied maths, pure maths, all these things giving us variety of formulae. But none of them are that easy. We need fair amount of time to grab it, fair amount of time to understand it, and we spend hours to memorize it. But here, Buddha is telling some kind of a very direct experience, and he says, when this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. For example, if we apply this particular principle for these 2 links, for example, avijja paccaya sankhara. So if we apply this particular principle to those 2 links, we have to say, because of ignorance, mental formations comes to be. Because of ignorance, mental formations comes to be. With the arising of ignorance, mental formations arise. Similarly, if we apply it to sankhara paccaya vijnanam, with the existence of the mental formations, consciousness comes to be. With the arising of the mental formations, consciousness arises. If we apply this principle to vijnana paccaya nama rupam, vijnana and the nama rupa, that is the consciousness and name and form, then we can say, with the existence of the consciousness, name and form come to be. And with the arising of the consciousness, name and form arises. So I can explain all 12 links, but I think you can understand. So you can apply this particular principle to any of these 2 links. So they are interlinked in the forward way. Now I have explained the forward cycle. So you can see this particular principle, this dependent arising, can be applied to any of these 2 links, because you can understand these mental formations are conditioned. Conditioned by what? Conditioned by ignorance. Consciousness is conditioned by mental formations. Then the name and form is conditioned by consciousness. 6 sense bases are conditioned by name and form. 6 sense bases or contact is conditioned by 6 sense bases. Then the feeling is conditioned by contact. Craving is conditioned by feeling. Then the clinging is conditioned by craving. Then the becoming is conditioned by craving. Grasping. And then the birth is conditioned by becoming. So likewise, you can see all these things are dependently arising. None of them can arise by themselves. All are interlinked. So, therefore, you can see some kind of a pattern is there, how our minds are working, how our minds are operating. So, if we don't understand this pattern, if we don't understand this dependently arisen nature, then we start to proliferate. So what are the different proliferations? So this is in a way fairly deep subject, and Buddha says that we'll end up with a thicket of wrong views, a thicket of wrong thinking, and related to the past we are thinking in a wrong way. Like, was I in the past? So did you ever think about like this? Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what? What did I become in the past? Have you ever thought like this? Related to the past? And how about the future? Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? So do you have any doubt? Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I be in the future? Probably you may be thinking about the future, about your old age. How shall I be in the future? And having been what shall I be in the future? And this is how we are proliferating. This is how we are thinking. And the present tense is even interesting. And Buddha is telling, am I? Now we are thinking about the present status. Am I exist? Or am I not exist? What am I? Am I an animal? Am I a deva? Am I a human? What am I? How am I? I am feeling good or I am feeling bad? How am I? Where has this being come from? And where will it go? So likewise, Buddha says there are 16 kind of doubts going to arise in our mind. Have you ever thought like this in your life? Related to the past, we are thinking like that. Related to the future, we are thinking like that. And related to the present, we are thinking like this. You can see how Buddha very profoundly analyzing various thinking patterns. Related to the past, we are thinking. Related to the future, we are keep on proliferating. Even in the present moment, we are thinking. This is how mind is conditioned to think. And Buddha says, we keep on thinking like this, if not, we properly understand this dependent arising nature. So today I tried to give you some theoretical understanding about this principle and what are the consequences if we don't properly understand this principle. And if we properly understand this principle, there are huge benefits. And that's why he is taking a lot of time, even in this sutta, to question the monks. If you read this sutta, there are many pages it is written how Buddha is questioning the monks, asking each and every link. You might even bored or even confused by this sermon. But Buddha asking from all the monks each and every link to clarify, to verify whether monks have understood this principle. You can see these are some deep aspects of the Dhamma that Buddha wants us to be 100% clear. Just not because of the per se, just not taking it for granted because it appears in the book. Rather, is it possible for us to verify? So therefore he is continuously verifying, continuously asking again and again from the monks to check whether they properly understood it. So we'll look at further according to this sutta on tomorrow, and I hope this would be enough for today, otherwise you will be in further confusion. So I will stop for today's Dhamma sermon, and I wish that we will have time tomorrow also to explain it a little further so that we will understand what are the benefits and again how Buddha is going for explaining us to use this principle to overcome suffering. So with that final or concluding remarks, I will wind up today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for listening.